Well, what part are we on now? Part 5. It's been a while. 300 subscribers. I can't believe there's 300 people subscribing to some guy messing with some old scrap in his garage. So, thank you, and cheers to all new subscribers. It's amazing, that is. Now, the MR2 has been pushed to the back burner a little bit because I have had a couple of problems with it. Not massive ones, and they should have been foreseen, but it hasn't blown up or shat itself yet, which is a good starting point. But as you can see on the bench, we have a new clutch, yeah, and a new pressure plate, because we're going to need that. We're well in the world of clutch slip. Now, I've turned the boost right down to about 4 psi, and the clutch is slipping on it. The clutch is about maybe 4,000 miles old. It was a standard 1ZZ car, and the clutch gave up on it, and I put a whole new clutch in it. I don't think it's a worn out clutch. I just think we're making way more torque than these sort of clutches were ever designed for. So there's definitely going to be a part 6 where I take a gearbox out of an MR2 all over again. That joyous game. I've only done about 6 gearboxes in 4 years or something right now in MR2s, but so we're pretty good at it, and I'll get round to that. Now, I've been a bit delayed in this because there's been a holiday, there's been someone in the family unwell who's been in hospital, came out of hospital, went back into hospital again, and is now back out again and is doing pretty well. But that all comes with its toll. And say, since the clutch is slipping, I can't really do much on it until I put a clutch. But I have finished off the charge cooler, and that works brilliant. Like, the charge cooler is fantastic, and we're going to take you for a little drive in this video. But realistically, the next job is going to be the clutch. But anyway, I'll take you on this little video journey of doing the charge cooler, showing you the results. Now, the charge cooler works better than I ever imagined, and when people talk about how much boost they're running, I think you should always take that with a pinch of salt, because this was getting controlled to about half a bar, and then as soon as I got the charge cooler working, we still made half a bar, but we made a lot more power, like a lot more. And then I started to bring in some ignition timing, and then the clutch slipped. So timing is torque at the end of the day. You know, if you crack the mixture off at the right time, you're making the torque. Cracking the mixture off late in the stroke is not making torque. So the combination of, we've got a lot more air, we've got a denser mix, so we can now make the power from it. The charge cooler works really well when I drive it. I've put some temperature sensors on the water system as well. So come for a drive, enjoy part 5. I can't believe it's part 5. There's definitely going to be a part 6 doing a clutch, and then we can tidy up the tuning and probably do a part 7. And at that stage, we'll know actually what it cost us. And let's just hope when I put a clutch in it and bring some timing in, that then something doesn't break. But this thing goes like a rocket. Well, it did up until the clutch started slipping on it. I would thoroughly recommend a 1ZZ Turbo. It's a very good pathway for MR2s. You know, swapping the engine out, 2ZZ, yada yada yada. 2ZZ Scream, they're a lot of fun. For the road, I'd definitely go with 1ZZ. You know, I've had a 2ZZ car, I've got a 2AR car, but the 1ZZ Turbo is the most fun I have had in years. Driving it about, it is so much fun. It makes all the right noises. It goes like a rocket. You don't have to lean on it too hard. It's just got power all the time. It's brilliant. But anyway, I'll take you on a little drive. I'll show you the fabrication, and anyway, enjoy. So these are the little things that I've bought for monitoring the temperature of the charge cooler water. Apexi. They were on AliExpress. They are for scooters and mopeds for monitoring the temperature, the water coolant temperature. And as such, they have these lovely little CNC fittings that are 16mm, which is the same sort of size pipework that you would use when you are plumbing up a charge cooler. and then they've just got a little thermistor that screws in there. How good they are, we'll find out. And then a little temperature display that you put 12 volts to, and these were only about £8 each or something. And I shopped around for things for this for quite a while, and I landed on these. So Norexi 16mm. We'll see if they're any good. You know, they're probably a pile of Chinese rubbish, but if they do, they do, don't they? Another thing I've done is I've replaced this exhaust outlet V-band adapter. As you can see, with all this soot marking here and here, it was heavily blowing on the edges, and I'm using these V-bands that I bought on Amazon that are Chinese terrible quality V-bands, but functional. But the V-band adapter that I bought has a slightly different size and profile. So if I put it to one side, you can see it's got a lip. They're not the same size at all, and the clamp wasn't working properly. So I bought another one of these, and I slit the V-band off, as you can see with my cut line there. So I sliced that off the other V-band, and I welded one of these on, and now I get a proper seal. And these ones have got a little lip on both sides as well, so they're stable in that X and Y axis. So when you're clamping together, they align better, and the external V fits better. So that stops oxygen from creeping in through this flange, and then my wideband sensor was reading the oxygen that's getting venturied in, and as such I'm then overfueling it because I think there's oxygen there. I think it's lean, so I enrichen the mixture and I'm ending up overly rich. Since I've sealed this part of the exhaust system up, my mixture appeared instantly even richer, and I've had to lean it out a little bit because I was enriching it for false oxygen that was actually coming in via the exhaust system. The rest of the install was very difficult to video, but we've made up a bracket for the pump there and plumbed some hoses in with some joins. We've also put a temperature sensor on the hot water from the charge cooler into the heat exchanger, and we've put another temperature sensor on the return. I'll show you more about these temperature sensors, and then just for testing purposes we've got some very janky wiring on the go. Now I'll show you what's in the back. So please do not judge me too hard, as this was just a temporary plumb up, because I have no idea whether this charge cooler was going to work, but I literally cable tied the hoses down the side of the car there, and so you can see the pump there. So that's the pipe work that way, and then I'll show you at the back. Now from the back we go, there's nothing really supporting it under the fuel tank there other than the strength of the pipe, and then we go up that way. One of them goes through the transmission mount and then to the bottom of the charge cooler. You can't really see it, it's very hard to get many good shots of it, but and then it's just teed into the header tank so you can get some water in it. Now again, trying to plumb this up and do any sort of video was impossible because the pipework is right down there, but we've basically got two hoses that disappeared down the transmission tunnel plumbed in here, and then again very janky for testing purposes. I've used a MR2 header tank bottle that I had kicking about, and I've managed to plumb it all up with water and get it bled, which was a bit of a pain, but it was doable. So the two temperature sensors, again, very janky, but we've just got them as a pair of displays. These are for mopeds and motorcycle coolant systems because of the same bore pipe, but that reads the inlet and the outlet, so we can see how much heat, well, what the difference is between the water coming out of the charge cooler and coming out of the heat exchanger at the front. We can see what does what, but the results from driving it have been really good so far. But I'll take you for a drive. So we're out for a drive. We can see that the water temperature is 23 inlet and 28 outlet, and it's growing, and there's a gap between the pair. So there's the water coming out of the front rad is cooler than what's getting shoved out of the rear heat exchanger. And as we boost, this gap grows, and then when we cruise about, they fall back down. So we've managed to get almost a 10-degree difference there at that stage, and we've cruised a bit and the temperature drops. So the heat is getting soaked into the water and we are growing in temperature, but as we cruise we then displace it back off. So it's not ideal, but it does work, and the intake temperatures are pretty low. We're talking 20s. You can see on the dash there 28 degrees on the Apexi. Now I stop and get the thermal imaging camera out, and you can see the actual charge cooler itself is way cooler than the contents of the engine bay. It doesn't work very well because of the reflection, but it definitely is pulling the heat out of that chamber and pumping it to the front of the car. So it's doing what we set out to do. But I think wrapping this box and insulating it to stop any heat soak from under the bonnet would be a good move next. Now, it wouldn't be a 3-pot video without a bit of data logging, would it? But let's have a look at our air intake temperatures on that little drive. The yellow line here is the intake air temperature sensor. The green line is boost. So we're making a bit of boost. Let's have some RPMs as well. Where's RPM? So we can actually see us driving the car.
There we go. So we're revving up, aren't we? Now, if we play this log, we can see we're making some boost in the gear. We're doing 2 gears through the revs, and now we've gained a couple of degrees of water temperature. And then here we'll come and do a bit of boosting again. Are you ready? We can see the boost gauge going up. Yeah, so we're making, you know, a few psi, quarter of a bar there, third of a bar, half of a bar, and then we gain a couple more degrees. So we're at 19 degrees now. We were at 18. So after that little boost we've just soaked, we've ended up with our air intake temperatures 1 degree higher. And then the next time we do it, so as you can see, the temperature comes up from ambient. We start with the water at ambient temperature, and then every time we boost, we soak a bit of heat into it. But what seems to happen is, so say here we do a few gears, we're getting on some serious boost there. We're making half a bar. We're doing some big long pulls in gears. If I zoom in a little bit, that must be 4th gear, 5th gear. We're flying at that stage. But you see now that the water is warming up, so the charge cooler is not working as well. And then I've noticed that the water must be like 30 odd degrees at this point with the gauges on the car. So we're having a little cruise, and the revs are lower, we're just cruising down the dual carriageway, and we can see that we're shedding the water temperature, and thus the air temperature comes down 32 degrees, 31 degree, the next one's going to be 30 degrees here. So as we drive, the heat soak is getting dissipated by the radiator at the front. So this probably points towards that the radiator at the front of the car doesn't have the capacity to displace the heat properly. So the charge cooler at the back is working, but the water is just creeping up in temperature as we soak the heat into it, which that's always going to happen. Whether we can sustain a temperature, though, is where the symbiosis, whether the balance occurs. The heat exchanger at the front has to be able to displace enough heat to just stop the water from getting warmer and warmer and warmer. Now, as you can see through this last bit of this data log, we're hitting some boost. We've got all the green lines on here, so we're boosting. We're doing a few gears, we're boosting, probably hitting a roundabout, slowing down again, and then we're boosting its knackers off again, hitting this half a bar stage. What is it? 44, 45. It's in kilopascals, so it's half a bar basically. And as you can see, the temperature then creeps up again, and we're peaking up here. The last bit is what? 41, 42 degrees, which does point towards that front rad's not really big enough.
If you could smell that, it smells like toast. Now, I hope you've enjoyed part 5, and I hope you look forward to part 6. I'm sure you'll probably look forward to part 6 a lot more than I will look forward to part 6, because taking gearboxes out of cars is about as fun as, punching yourself in the eye. So, anyway, till next time.